Hello everybody, hope everyone's doing well. It's a couple weeks only left until the start of the trapping season here in the Ozarks, and I'm totally psyched and totally pumped. I'm actually getting kind of tired of just waiting around. There's not much going on right now other than bow season, and I'm ready to go and hit the woods and start putting some traps in the ground and chasing some fur. So I thought today I'd talk a little bit about something that we haven't really talked about before, and it's something that I don't see a lot of videos on, and that is like wind and scent and how that affects your trap line. I know for me, um, I have to make sure that I'm very cognizant about making sure that when I'm looking for trap locations and I'm setting things up, I find sign, I find funnel points, I find all those things, and then I have to force myself to always think about wind direction and where I'm going to put my traps in the ground. You know, they talk about micro locations versus macro locations. It's easy, I think, for a lot of us to try to figure out a macro location. It's the micro locations that's a little bit more difficult. And I think a lot of people don't really put much emphasis at all in micro locations. And by a micro location, I'm talking you have this larger area where you have maybe sign, you have tracks, you have scat, you have funnel points, and this area might be where 2 or 3 roads come together, or a fence and a creek and a road come together, or a variety of things. That whole general area is more considered a macro location, and the micro location is going to be basically where exactly am I putting this trap in the ground? Am I putting it 10 feet off this road? Am I putting it along the road? Or am I putting it between the road and the creek and the fence? Exactly near this tuft of grass, near this little log. That would be more of a micro location. So we're pretty good, I think, a lot of times about trying to, okay, I have my macro location figured out. This is a good area. I see sign, I see all this stuff. It's always important to set on sign when you can. But then, where am I actually going to put this trap in? I think a lot of us just look around. I know I did this for years. You look around and you see this clump of grass, or you see, I don't know, something that catches your eye, and that's where I'm going to put this trap. That's a great place. I'm going to put it in right there, without really considering other factors. For example, the wind direction and things like that, especially if you're going to trap on canines. And I think, honestly, it's the little things like that that make you a trapper that gets 25 or 30 coyotes a year versus 100 coyotes a year. It's those little things that really add up over time, and being consistently good over time. A lot of people will catch a coyote. You can catch a coyote, you can set a set, you'll catch a coyote, but to catch 100 coyotes every year, that's a little bit different. So I think it's important that we put all these smaller things together, and micro locations is one of those. So let's look at this little spot now. Hypothetically, we're just using this as an example. Here's a road. There's a food plot on the right-hand side of this road that's got some winter wheat and some turnips and stuff planted in it. And then this road goes down, and it goes down into a bottom, crosses the creek, and there's 2 or 3 other roads that join in. So that's a great spot down there, but we're going to use this uphill spot, or this on top, more top of the mountain spot, as a place to put a set in. So here in the Ozarks, the wind generally blows from the west. Now, when we have a storm that comes in, we get those Canada clipper systems that come down out of Canada, come down out of Minnesota and Montana, and bring us cold temperatures for a little while. Those fronts may last 4, 5, 6 days. Maybe brings snow, maybe brings a cold dip in temperatures. That wind will turn and come out of the north. But as a general rule, most of the time here in the Ozarks, it's going to be westerly wind. It's going to blow west to east. The other thing we have to consider here in the Ozarks is the mountains. There's certain areas that are more rolling hills, and then there's certain areas that are much more significant mountains. And some of the areas that I trap might have 1,000 to 1,500 foot elevation gain from the bottom of where the holler is to the top of some small mountains. 1,500 feet may not seem like that much, but when it comes to wind direction, that can really throw some things around. So sometimes we'll get these, what we refer to as eddies, where the wind will blow and it'll act like, kind of like water in a stream and in a creek, and you got to be a little bit more cognizant of the direction and how the wind is going to affect your set. But as a general rule, again, it's still westerly. So if I am on this little road here that we've been talking about, this road where I am, the general direction is going to face to the west, and to the north to the west. So I'm going to put my set on the right-hand side as we're looking at this road, and that's going to be kind of on the northwest side of this little road. And that means when the wind blows, it's either going to blow across the road or it's going to blow mostly down the road. Either way, I'm going to pick up the canines that are coming down the trail. Whether they're just coming down the road and the wind is blowing directly due west, that wind is just going to go right down this road. And whether they are coming east or coming down west, eventually they're going to pick up that scent and they're going to go, okay, what is this? I need to go look at this. If the wind is blowing due north and it's a cold front or something like that, it's going to actually cross the road, and again, it should pick them up. Versus if I put it on the south side of the road, the wind is going to blow to the left and it's going to not even cross the road at all, or it's going to blow again from the west, and it might catch a little bit of the road from that side, but not as much as it will from the other side. So overall, it's going to be much better if we put it on the right side of this road, so we can use our sense of our lures and our baits to really catch that canine and help him get to our set. Now, there's lots of discussion and lots of talk about, well, how far is that really? How far is our sense and things going to work? And there's lots of scent makers that'll tell you, oh, it's going to, draw animals from this far, and there's biologists that argue over it. I think as a general rule, most people think I need to be 20, 25 feet at the most from where that animal is going to be moving. If I can be within 20 feet of where that animal is going to be moving, I have a good chance of having him pick up that scent and coming to my set. If you put out game cameras, like I do a lot, and you watch animals, as an animal bops down the road and you have a set, and he doesn't stop, he doesn't move, he doesn't do anything. He just, especially coyotes, because they move a little bit quick, if he just continues to move and doesn't do anything, then he hasn't smelled that. Okay? Even if you've done something where he picks up your scent and maybe he's skittish and he doesn't commit to the scent, he's still going to stop, he's still going to slow down, because he picks up that bait, he picks up that lure, and even for a couple seconds, it attracts him, he stops, maybe he turns his body, maybe he turns his head, maybe he even takes a couple steps toward your set, and then for some reason something spooks him, for whatever reason that is, that sometimes you don't know what's going to spook a coyote, and he moves on. If he's completely freaked out by your set, he's just going to completely avoid it altogether, and he's not going to go anywhere near it. So those are really the three reactions you're going to get. Or he's going to go right on in there and get caught in your set. So technically, I guess there's four. But you should be able to stop him, or at least catch his attention to some degree in that 20-foot range. If you're farther than that, you really significantly lessen your chance of being able to stop that canine and draw him to your set. So you want to be somewhat close, and you want to use the wind direction to your favor to try to draw those canines in. And I think if you do that, it's going to significantly increase your catch, whether it's a fox or a coyote. Foxes are much more curious than a coyote and much less skittish, so it's much easier to draw them in and pull them in. But if you really want to increase your coyote catches, I think you really got to be cognizant of the wind and just make it a habit of being setting your traps where the wind direction is going to go. And for me, a good rule of thumb is, because there's going to be areas where you're just not going to be able to maybe put a trap where the wind direction is going to be conducive to where you want. And then you'll be like, oh, I can't put a trap here, I can't put a trap there, because I'm not going to, the wind direction is going to be off. You can still put a trap there. My kind of rule of thumb is I want to put about 2/3 of my traps out, making good conscious decisions of wind direction.